We'll have to hello again, everyone. We're back live. Sorry we had the technical difficulties there. We had to go into another studio, and we hope those of you who are on the other link will join us here. But again, we're here tonight. We have a very, very special topic. Seems like our technology tried to go to sleep, so we'll talk about the benefits of healthy sleep tonight. But again, welcome to another show of Fresh, Natural, and Live. I'm here with our panel. I'll introduce our panel, Dr. Celeste Palmer. Dr. Palmer is a pediatrician who uses plant-based nutrition to treat her patients. She'll be talking to us about the health benefits of sleep. We have Dr. Pam Atkins, who's a family practice trained physician who practices in the Center for Wellness and Natural Healing here in Houston. She uses natural approaches, including nutrition, natural herbs. Her specialties in hormone stability in men and women, as well as thermography. And she practices here in Houston, along with Dr. Floyd Atkins, who's a retired podiatrist, who uses natural approaches to heal patients. Some of his specialties deal with environmental medicine, including water and the like. And the raw chick is Salsa Adosalem, our nutritionist, a resident nutritionist, who's here with us this evening. She's in Fairfax, Virginia, and she is a wellness counselor, and she uses nutrition as well as herbal therapy, and she does lots of counseling with patients around the world to help them achieve their health goals. So without further ado, I'm going to bring to you our first topic. I hope many of you find this on the other link. If you subscribe to us, you should get a notification of this new broadcast. I apologize. We had to go to a new studio. We had lots of feedback, and we got rid of that by just going into another digital studio. Tonight, Dr. Palmer will discuss the underlying physiological effects of sleep in general. Her discussion of the natural physiological effects of sleep on our overall health will lead to a discussion on the effects of poor sleep. She's going to give us some insights into the benefits and the pathophysiology of poor sleep, as well as the physiology and health benefits of proper sleep. So without further ado, Dr. Palmer, you have the stage. I'll bring your slides up.
Thank you. Okay, so we're going to talk about understanding sleep and the health benefits of sleep. We'll start out by basically defining sleep. We all sleep, but we really don't think about the importance of it and what its function is. It can be broken down now into two stages, which are REM and non-REM sleep. We'll talk about sleep duration, circadian rhythm, the hormones that are involved in our sleep process. Why do we have to sleep? Sleep deprivation, how do we improve our sleep? And actually kind of touch a little bit on foods that help with sleep. So what is sleep? It is a mandatory natural process, self-regulated and reversible back to wakefulness. That is different from coma or medications that help us sleep. In those instances, we need people to wake us, or we need other medications to help wake us back up. Every animal has some form of sleep. Sleep is as important as the food, water, and air that we breathe. But there's still a lot of information out there that is not known about sleep. And it's not until about the 1960s that we started to do sleep studies and learn a little bit more about sleep and sleep stages. And I'm, of course, referring to our modern medicine. So we sleep, there are theories on why we sleep. And those theories have to do with restoring, repairing, and revitalizing us while we're awake. Because when we've done studies, what we found that if you deprive somebody of sleep, they're going to have poor daytime performance, they're going to be tired. There are measurable effects that occur on the immune system. Also, there's growth hormone secretion that happens at night, thought to have an effect on muscle growth and repair. So if you're working out, you want to get home and get to sleep because that's going to help with muscle growth. And also cell regeneration, of course, growth hormone, and also for children, for growth and development of children. Brain metabolism, so when we sleep, the body clears itself of certain substances. Measurable substances include adenosine. During the course of the day, our adenosine builds up. It gets to a certain level. It's thought to help to induce deep non-REM sleep. And while we're sleeping, it breaks down and the levels start to decrease again. And also it's postulated to, another theory is brain plasticity. So promoting learning connections in the body and maintenance of learning different things that we've done during the day is put together at night. And these again are theories of what we think is the reason that we have to sleep. So let's categorize sleep into its stages. So the sleep studies now are using EEGs, EMGs, and EOGs. So we're looking at brain waves, we're looking at muscle movement and eye movement. The first stage of sleep technically is wakefulness. So we spend about 2/3 of our day awake. Wakefulness is hopefully what we are right now. Our eyes are open, we're alert, we're having conversation. Then we go into what we call alpha wave, which is a slower wave. And this is the stage where you go when you are in between being awake and sleep. So it typically looks like this. Now, if you go deeper into sleep, your wave starts to slow. So beta, if you go back to the orange level, beta is fully awake. Alpha is on your way to sleep. Theta is now we're in non-REM sleep. So most adults enter their sleep through non-REM. Non-REM is then broken down into 3 stages itself. And we can all identify with these stages if we think about how we feel when we're headed towards sleep. So N1 is things are starting to slow down. We're in theta, as I said, the eye movements are slowing down, heart rate is slowing down, respiratory rate is also slowing down. Sometimes you get hypnic jerks or muscle contractions. This is your lightest stage of sleep. This is the stage of sleep when somebody taps you, you say, oh, I wasn't asleep. But we all know that you were sleeping because you're knocked out. But a lot of times people in this stage, they don't realize that they're asleep. Moving forward to N2, this is still in theta. The wave is slowing down, but we're still theta. This is 55% of our night. This is our power nap stage. So in this stage, we get sleep spindles and K complexes. And what that means is the body does something to allow you to stay asleep, even though there's noise around you. So it inhibits your perception so you don't sense that there's danger. So when you go to sleep, and let's say you're at work like this young lady is, you know that you're at work. So it's not going to wake you up every time somebody walks past your desk or something happens outside of you unless it senses danger. So this is our power nap stage. Then N3 sleep, previously called stage 3 and 4, is a deep or slow wave sleep. So now we're into delta EEG waves. So this is restorative sleep. We need this type of sleep to actually have what we call quality sleep. We spend about 20% of our night in this type of sleep. And most of our N3 sleep occurs at the beginning of the night, and it gets lessened during the course of the night. We move forward to REM sleep, rapid eye movement sleep. And as you can see from the picture here, I don't know if you can see my cursor, but in non-REM sleep, the brain activity is slowing. And then we get into REM and everything starts to speed back up. So this is called paradoxical sleep because it actually looks like we're awake by the studies, but we are sleeping. So the EEG shows sawtooth waves. You have rapid eye movement going back and forth, and you have atonia, which means that you have no movement of voluntary muscles except for your eyes and your diaphragm. And this is thought to be protective, such that when you are dreaming, because this is where you dream, you don't run or you don't fight the person that may be beside you in bed. Now, there are instances, of course, when we'll talk about that, where that does happen, but that's not considered normal in a sleep cycle. Also in this stage, your heart rate and respiratory rate starts to increase as if you were awake. So in REM, as I said, we have our vivid dreams. This is about 23% of our night. And we still are trying to understand what is the reason for our vivid dreams. It is postulated that it's time for memory consolidation. And also it helps the body to kind of prune or get rid of things that it doesn't doesn't need, or the memory to get rid of things that it doesn't need that may have happened during the course of the day or during the course of the week. There is an assumption that as we get older, there's less REM, but the studies don't really support that. And I think that is probably because there's so many other factors that play into that type of statement. Because as we get older, we're sometimes on more medications, we have more health issues. So that may be actually affecting the REM sleep and not just the age factor. So babies get about 50% of REM, adolescents 25, and adults and older adults about 20. So as we go through these stages, they don't always go in the same, they go in the same order, but they don't go 1, 2, 3 REM back up to N1. What they do is go N1, N2, N3, back around to N2. N2 then takes us back to REM, and then back up to N1. Now, these are cycles that need to happen about 4 or 5 times in an 8-hour time period. And each cycle lasts for about 90 to 120 minutes. And it's very important that we have these cycles throughout the night, because this is what we are calling quality sleep. Again, N3 is it's occurring more in early hours of the night, and our REM occurs more earlier in the mornings. So that's why sometimes when you wake up in the morning, you have just finished dreaming, you just come out of a dream state, because you have just finished dreaming. So if you look back here, if you look here, you see that in some of these stages, you don't go all the way back up to wakefulness, but in 2, 3 of them, you do go back up to wakefulness. We call these arousals. Sometimes these are full awakening, sometimes they are not. And so in the arousals, what is happening on EEG is a shift from a deep sleep to a lighter sleep, and sometimes all the way up to wakefulness. So if we do have some sleep disorders, like I was talking about, the sleepwalking, the sleep talking, mumbling, crying out, nightmare, sleep terrors, it occurs in this stage. I used to watch Popeye growing up, and Olive Oyl always did this. So this is not considered normal. Most of the time, these patients do not remember the sleepwalking, the sleep talking, or the episode that happened when they are fully awake. Durations of sleep. So as we get older, our sleep cycle in time, I should say our time in the sleep cycle does change. But also, as a society, our sleep has decreased overall. And so with the invention of the light bulb, it affected our sleep majorly. But now also we live in a 24/7 society where things are always going. We have the TV, we have the cell phone, we have computers, we have restaurants open 24/7. So this has had a major negative impact on our sleep cycle as a country. And when you compare our numbers to other countries, it does show. In the US, I think it says 60% of people get less than 7 hours of sleep. Most people feel like they can catch up on the weekends. They're missing out on sleep on weekdays, but they feel like they can catch up on the weekends. Sometimes that is possible. Many times that is not possible to catch up on sleep as we feel like we can. Just to kind of go into the different age groups a little closer, newborns sleep about 16 to 18 hours a day in short blocks. They don't have circadian rhythm yet. So they get their circadian rhythm around 3 months. And we know this because babies will typically sleep during the day and they're up all night. And that's a complaint that new mommies always have, is that the baby's up all night. And I reassure them that usually around 3 months, they'll start to catch on and catch up with the circadian rhythm. Children enter sleep at non-REM like adults do. They spend about 75% of their sleep in non-REM. And their cycle is very similar to adults, about 90 to 20 minutes, 120 minutes in each cycle, about 4 to 5 cycles in the night. Teenagers are a little bit different, and that's why I put them in under children, because you would think that as we get older that our time decreases consecutively consecutively, but it does not. According to a Johns Hopkins study, teenagers need about 9 to 10 hours of sleep. And that is because it is being discovered that children in this stage are actually going through a second developmental stage. And also their brains are developing, they're physically growing, they're having growth spurts. So they actually need more sleep. So their circadian rhythm is actually pushed back an hour to 2 hours. So that's why teenagers sleep in later in the morning. So this is biology and not just them being a lazy teenager, which sometimes parents think that they're doing. And in 2014, the American Academy of Pediatrics actually released a policy that middle schools and high schools should start no earlier than 8:30, so that children can sleep in and get the appropriate amount of sleep for growth. Some schools are doing it. I know here in Texas, young adults, they should get about, I guess I'm middle-aged now, 8 hours a night. And they have more N3 sleep in middle age and beyond. It's saying that the N3 is decreased, so N1 is increased, meaning we have less deep restorative sleep and more light sleep in these stages.
It's your slides. You can move the age times up if you want to. I do that on my slides.
Okay, so let's look at our circadian rhythm. What is circadian rhythm? So basically, it's that internal clock that responds to the environment. So light, temperature tells our body what time of the day it is, when it's time to go to sleep, when it's time to wake up. And so it also is regulated by hormonal release. And a lot of people have heard of melatonin, but the darkness outside stimulates our body to release melatonin, and it gets us feeling drowsy and ready for sleep. Also, we talked about adenosine a little bit earlier. Adenosine is involved in our digestion. It also is linked to our sleep. And like I said, it builds up during the course of the day. And then as we sleep overnight, the body breaks it down. So we need the adenosine to be at a certain level to help us to go to sleep and stay asleep. And then the body clears it out of the system. So just a pictorial of what a circadian rhythm is. Typically, melatonin stops about 7:30 in the morning. Between 10 and 5, if you look at this, these are our most productive hours, and these are our work hours. And studies, they have always known this. So this is why we work during these most productive hours. Now, also, if you just look at this chart, you see that around 7 p.m., the body temperature increases. So if you are not feeling well, this is when your temperature is going to go up at night. A lot of times parents will say to me, every night the baby's temperature goes up. That's what the circadian rhythm is telling the body to do, because it's going into a healing stage. So this is what it's supposed to do. Around 9 p.m., melatonin comes back to help us to get drowsy, and we repeat the cycle. So this is a cycle that we all have. There are certain hormones that are released from the brain that help.
I'm sorry. You're probably going to go into this, but the release of melatonin. I was told that sunlight into the eyes stimulate pineal gland function and I guess melatonin production. I guess that would feed into the circadian rhythm. If we're outdoors a lot and we're getting sunlight and we're stimulating pineal gland function. But I guess you'll get into that. I should have posed it more as a question, but.
Yeah, it absolutely does. The melatonin responds to the darkness. And so when you have light coming in, and especially artificial light, and we'll talk about that, it throws off your circadian rhythm because the melatonin is not released like it should be.
Gotcha.
So we have growth hormone that is released, and we talked about that earlier, the melatonin. We also have oxytocin and prolactin, which we sometimes think of as only something that women in childbirth and lactation have. But we all use these in our sleep cycle. ADH, or antidiuretic hormone. We also have hormones that are released from our stomach and from our adrenals, from our pancreas. So this is where staying up late affects our eating. So ghrelin and leptin are two hormones that regulate our hunger. So if we're staying up and ghrelin is released more, it makes us more hungry. And most of the time when we are pushing our body beyond the point where it's supposed to be sleeping, we're going to crave higher carbs and food that is high in sugar. So this is where you're going to feel more hungry because you're still awake, and you're going to then grab something that is high carb, high sugar. And of course, that leads to weight gain and other problems that have to do with eating late at night and increased sugar in the bloodstream. Leptin is a hormone that helps decrease decrease hunger, I should say. It is decreased when we're not sleeping. So again, that's feeding into you being even more hungry. We also get insulin release when we're sleeping. When you take away sleep, insulin does not release as well. So there's more glucose that is floating around in the bloodstream. This leads to type 2 diabetes. So that's the connection between not getting the right amount of sleep and type 2 diabetes. There's also cortisol that's released, and also aldosterone. And so sleep helps the body to regulate and release the proper amount of these hormones so that they can function and get you ready for the next day. So we have sleep-wake homeostasis. Basically, there's a clock inside and that keeps track of how much sleep that you individually need, reminds the body when it's time to sleep. And if we are pushing beyond that point, which we all have done, then it will make you sleep longer the next day, or you will sleep more deeply the next day. Because
I'm sorry, along the lines of what you're talking about, Jeff Smith talks about he doesn't have problems going to sleep, but he wakes up at 3 to 3:30 a.m. and can't go back to sleep. I just thought I'd throw that out. I know I mean, it's along the lines of what you're talking about. I tend to have similar problems from time to time as well.
And I think those because I hear a lot of people say that it's so complex. It's hard to give one answer for that, because how we sleep depends on how our day was. Meaning, what did we eat during the day? How much stress did we take in during the day? What, hormones were released or not released during the day? So it's a lot that needs to probably be sat down and talked about before we can say, okay, this is the issue, or this is the issue, and this is the issue. And then also sleep, like I said, it's not fully understood, because some people wake up at 3 o'clock in the morning and they're ready to start the day. So a lot of people are more productive at 3 and 4 o'clock in the morning. I hear a lot of people say that. So there is still a lot of questions out there on this, when he's waking at 3 o'clock in the morning, is he still tired, or is he feeling rested? And so that will be the question for him.
Yeah.
Why is it overall important? We know that we just talked about different things are going on to help restore the body. So needed for our mental health, physical health, helps us to think more clearly, production of hormones. It helps us in learning, becoming more creative, and making decisions. And they've listed out 10 things here, which we kind of just touched on. But also just reminder about the strength of the immune system. So it strengthens our immune system. So basically, studies have shown us that when we are deprived of sleep, that our T cells are not functioning as well as they're supposed to function. So T cells help to attack viruses in the body to keep our system clear of viruses. When we're not sleeping, the T cells are not functioning as well. They're not as sticky, so they can't grab onto a virus and clear it out. And so that is one direct way that the immune system, it has been negatively impacted. And they also found that if you were not sleeping well and you're going the next day to get that flu vaccine, your body is not going to mount as good of a response because you didn't sleep. So the immune system is not at tip-top performance. So in anything that we're doing and everything we're doing, we should remember that sleep is very important. So some of the studies on sleep, we find out the importance based on deprivation. And so what they've done is they've sleep deprived people and then hooked them up and kind of found out what happens. And we find out that people have slower response time, they're irritable, poor behaviors and relationship issues. We know that they have increase in their blood pressure, heart disease, stroke, and diabetes. And decreased sleep is also linked to increased inflammatory cytokines in the body. So you get more inflammation in the body when you're not sleeping. It's seen as a stress response. So your body, even though you may not feel stressed, and then again, you may feel stressed, but your body sees decreased sleep as stress and reacts in kind. Weight gain, we talked about the insulin connection with that. People who are prone to get migraines will have migraine worsening with that, and kidney diseases and also cancer. Certain types of cancers are linked to decreased sleep. There are many reasons why people have disturbed sleep. Just to kind of touch on a few, stressors, of course, emotional stressors, but also physical stressors on the body, whether it be chronic medical conditions or even medications that we take that interfere with sleep. Of course, drugs and alcohol also do interfere with sleep. Caffeine blocks those adenosine receptors, which will keep you awake. And then a new thing that we are dealing with now is the artificial light. The blue light, oftentimes from our TV, from our computer screens, from our alarm clocks, all disrupt our sleep cycle. And so what we found that less than 5 hours per night of regular sleep is associated with higher mortality rates. And what also we found is if you have 3 nights in a row of less than 7 hours of sleep, then it's equivalent to missing a full night of sleep. So just to look at this blue light or backlight issue. So now 71% of the population is either we go to sleep with our phones right beside us, or it's on the nightstand, but it's very close to us. And some people use these sleep apps. We really don't need that. That is more for entertainment purposes. It's not helping us. But we usually have our phone pretty close to us, and because we use our phone as an alarm clock. And as I alluded to before, what happens is that blue light tells the brain that it's daytime. So it usually takes you about 10 additional minutes to fall asleep when you compare somebody on their phone versus you reading a book before you go to bed. Melatonin secretion goes down, the circadian rhythm is thrown off. You get decreased REM. So this is your dreaming, you dream less when you're on your phone before bedtime. And also a lot of times people wake up feeling groggy and still sleepy the next day. And also there's an impact of the low frequency EMFs on the body, which I think we're going to talk about in another week or so with technology. Now, everything is about balance. So not enough sleep is not good, but too much sleep is not good either. So the funny thing is that too much sleep does the same thing as not enough sleep. So you have to get the right balance in there, because if not, the same problems will happen.
What would be the cause of too much sleep? Are just drugs you're taking? That's the only thing that comes to mind.
Well, I mean, some people are depressed, medications, some illnesses that cause them to sleep too much. I mean, there are physical reasons why people feel more tired and more exhausted during the day. Adrenal insufficiency, so your hormones are not releasing and waking you up like you're supposed to be awakened, so you're feeling tired and groggy all day. You don't have clearness in your thought process. So there are a lot of different reasons that people would feel like they're tired. They may not feel sleepy, but they feel tired. And so since they feel tired, they feel like they need to sleep and they're trying to sleep more, but then that leads to headaches, increasing your risk of type 2 diabetes is listed here, and back pain, because the longer you're in the bed, now your back is starting to hurt. So it can kind of create more of physical issues for you.
Alexia Holford her comment is cute, quite on. I don't know if you can see this or not, but
I can't.
What if you sleep more than 9 hours a night? I have it she had 2 sleep studies, nothing's wrong. Of course, the sleep studies oftentimes are looking for obstructive sleep apnea. I don't know if they do deep analysis, but she just sleeps a lot. But could this put me at risk for stroke or clot? And I think you more or less answered that. I guess it does. And just taking from your comments, I mean, it seems like it's a chicken or egg type thing, right? So if somebody sleeps a lot, are they at risk for these, health issues, or are the hypersomnolence an outward sign of these health issues? I mean, somebody who has heart disease or some other chronic condition,
right?
The outward manifestation of that health problem could be excess sleep or excess need to sleep.
Right. And maybe, in addition to the sleep study, going to your primary care doctor and getting all your labs and things checked to make sure that those electrolytes and everything is balanced and you're not anemic or there's not something else going on that's being overlooked.
I wanted to say something about that. I agree, to get, it could be some underlying medical problem, definitely adrenal insufficiency and thyroid, underactive thyroid, or some people could have a clinical hypothyroid where the values are normal, but they're low normal and they're really too low for that person. And that can, when you feel tired and fatigued, you're going to sleep more and still, but you're not feeling rested. So
Dr. What would you order on this test? Let's say this person's sleeping in your office and sitting in your office and you get this. What test would you order? What would be your workup? I know you might want to get more information, but just based on this little bit you have.
Right. Well, I think definitely you want to get a blood count, making sure there's no underlying anemia, especially women of childbearing age or somebody has some chronic illness, they have anemia, and you want to get the thyroid test, but you want to make sure your doctor does the free T4 and free T3. Not all of them do free T3 because it's not on the standard panel, and the TSH. But if they are on the borderline, that may not be optimal for you. And I also may consider doing, which is out of network of saliva testing to see if the hormones are balanced and if the cortisols are low, DHEA, suggesting adrenal insufficiency.
Wonderful. Thank you very much. Yes.
I have a lot of clients with mental disabilities and things like schizophrenia and different mental issues, and they sleep really, really long periods. And I always find it really fascinating to track their sleep and see what's going on. I think that sometimes it's an indication that your body may be trying to heal something. So I guess that's in line with what everybody already said, where you're trying to figure it out. But to really quickly circle back to the person who said they wake up in the middle of the night, a lot of times I find that people have elevated levels of cortisol in the middle of the night, and that's why they're waking up like that. And they might have adrenal fatigue. And so instead of having the cortisol boost in the morning, they have it in the middle of the night like that.
Wonderful. Thanks for the input, guys. All right, I think Alexi's got some insight. I'm just going to respond to her in the chat room, say she needs a thorough workup.
Okay.
All right, so sorry, Dr. Palmer.
That's fine. So, and this is quarantine sleep. So the current situation it's really disrupted a lot of people, and I see it a lot in practice, because now we are not, the rhythm and routine of us getting up and going to work or getting up and going to school is on hold. So people are sleeping in, they're staying up till 1 and 2 o'clock in the morning. We're eating in the bed, we're on the computer in the bed, we're doing everything that's wrong. And it makes us more tired. So even though we have more time, the rhythm is totally thrown off. And so it makes you even more sleepy. And so I talk to parents all the time, even though we don't have to get up and send our children to school in the morning, we cannot allow them to stay up on the PlayStation until 1 o'clock in the morning playing, and then think that they're going to be healthy, because growth hormone in particular for them is being released at night. Their brain is still developing. So I think people sometimes overlook the fact that even though we're home and we can sleep in, that there's still a lot of things happening that are supposed to continue to happen whether we're under quarantine or whether we're, everything is back to what we consider our new normal. So some general recommendations. Basically, what we know, and some of this is just a reminder to us of how to kind of create a peaceful and sleep environment. So routine is important, making sure that we try to go to sleep around the same time every night, avoiding sleeping in even on weekends. Sleeping in is fine sometimes, but not making it a habit because that throws off the rhythm. Of course, not eating dinner too late, avoiding big meals in the nighttime, avoiding alcohol and caffeine because that blocks the release of certain hormones, decreasing our sugary foods and refined carbs, and then also remembering to create a space where you're not bringing your phones, your schoolwork, your homework, your work into the bedroom, so that when you walk into your bedroom, that your brain says this space is for sleep. Some other things that people find helpful is deep breathing techniques, and I mean actually doing it in a scheduled way. So breathing in for 4, holding it for 4, breathing out for 4. And this helps to, what you're doing when you do this is actually slowing down your brain waves. Remember earlier, we had the beta waves where we're awake, we had the theta waves when we're falling asleep, and then we get to delta when we're sleeping. So we want to slow down the brain activity, and deep breathing and meditation and prayer helps us to slow that process down. Some things that we can do during the day that sometimes we overlook is we need to get outside during the day. We need sunlight during the day. Even so, if you're working inside of a building where you don't have a window or you don't have natural light, they do have light boxes that simulate natural light. At nighttime, we want to turn off these screens at least an hour before bedtime, sometimes up to 2 hours before bedtime. No late night TV, no backlit items on your phone or on these readers. And also you want to make sure that if you do have to get up in the middle of the night, that you just have a little night light. You don't turn on the bright lights because again, you're stimulating your body to wake up if you turn on all the bright lights. And a reminder to my families, with children, everything is about routine, and also reminding my families that as what we're doing with sleep is teaching children how to sleep for the rest of their lives. So making sleep a priority such that when they are adults, they also make sleep a priority in their life. Monitoring the screen time. Again, I know we've all been home and we've had more time, but an hour before bedtime, the screens need to go off. Keeping the TV out of their room. The AAP actually recommends that no child should have a TV in their room, so that the bedroom is created as a sleep space and not a TV watching or a play space. Remembering also that our teenagers, their circadian rhythm is shifted, and so they may sleep a little bit longer, but this is puberty and this is normal for puberty. So let them sleep because they're in a special developmental stage. No bottles in the bed for our babies. Starting solids at 6 months, not starting babies on food around 2 months because you want them to sleep through the night. What that does is destroys their microbiome, or it doesn't allow it to develop properly. You want to avoid overscheduling our children. We have a lot of people are very busy. They have games, they have tournaments, have a lot of things going on, but making sure that we at some point cut our activities so that we can get home, eat dinner, take a shower, and get in the bed in a timely fashion. And then if you do notice that your child is having problems, mention something to the teacher to see if your child is having difficulties at school during the day, and then also talk to your doctor. And then I came across an article which I thought I had to just throw it in here. So there actually are racial or ethnic differences in sleep, which was really interesting to me. So what they found is that basically, and for most of the parameters, so what they kind of think is disturbing the sleep has to do with financial concerns, employment, personal relationships, and health-related concerns. But of course, at the end, the summary is that African Americans sleep an hour less than white Americans. And Hispanics and Asians kind of fall in between somewhere. So that was quite interesting to me, that we actually sleep less. But even when looking at all of the parameters, so we're looking at duration of sleep, continuity, efficiency, sleeping time, alertness, and sleepiness during the day. Most of the time, African Americans ourselves, we're saying that we actually feel like we have had a good night's sleep. So despite having poor sleep based on these parameters, we actually feel rested. So again, the studies on that are still a little bit inconclusive, but it was just interesting that there was a difference. And this table kind of breaks it down here. Sleep duration is lower in all of these ethnical groups when compared to non-Hispanic white adults, with the exception of the American Indian. Quality is also down, and they're basing quality on the time you're getting of N3 type sleep and also REM sleep. Sleepiness during the day, we did report that when African Americans did report higher sleepiness during the day. But as far as sleep complaints are concerned, we had mixed reviews with that. A lot of people said they felt fine the next day. Some people did say that they had some sleepiness after sleeping. And just to touch on some foods and specifically looking at a plant-based diet. So there are minerals and vitamins and amino acids that the body needs to help us to go into sleep, that helps the body to relax and the muscles to relax. So tryptophan, magnesium, calcium, and vitamins, the B6 are named in those. Tryptophan is converted into serotonin, which helps decrease depression and anxiety. And then tryptophan is converted into melatonin, which is our sleep hormone, which regulates our circadian rhythm. Magnesium is named as a muscle relaxant and helps to deactivate adrenaline in our bloodstream. Calcium helps also with making the melatonin, and vitamin B6 converts tryptophan to melatonin. So these are just a couple of them that I've named here, and these are just some of the foods that these are not the only foods. So the plant-based foods are probably indefinite, but these are some foods that are known to have some of these minerals and vitamins. So nuts and seeds, we know have magnesium, zinc, vitamin B, and vitamin E. We know that chia seeds and pumpkin seeds have more tryptophan. Flax seeds also have high levels of tryptophan. We know that flax seeds also have omega-3s along with the hemp seeds. Tart cherry juice has melatonin, which helps us to get into that sleep-wake cycle.
We find you're going through your list. I'm sorry, I'm interrupting briefly, but we find, and I like the nutritional breakdown because it helps, and maybe we can target foods in some patients. But across the board, one thing I see over the years, we've done our boot camps classes, and when we detox patients, and one of the biggest things we get that's reported is improved sleep.
Yes.
Now, we're doing a lot of things. Granted, they're eating lots of plant foods and they're removing animal protein, they're removing preservatives, and we're weaning medications. And so it's hard for me to say, which is the big component: eating more plants, eating only plants, removing animal protein and preservatives and processed foods, or removing medications. If you had to guess, A, eating only plants versus B, removing animal proteins versus C, removing medications, which would you guess may be the biggest component to their improved sleep? I know it's kind of hard.
I would say eating only plants, because okay, so I'm a little skewed because I eat only plants. And I believe that that's what we're supposed to eat. And so if we're in rhythm with what we're supposed to do, the plants have they've shown by studies that the plants actually have the tryptophan, the magnesium, the zinc, the selenium, and these things that help the body to produce the serotonin, the melatonin, and these items that we need to actually help us to fall asleep and stay asleep. Now, a lot of times people can, if you remove a medication, it does not necessarily mean you're going to sleep better. Now, I think all of that plays a part in sleep deprivation if you're taking a medicine that's obstructing or blocking some of these amino acids and proteins from doing what they're supposed to do. But I think the plant is powerful. And if we, unfortunately, we've lost the knowledge of knowing which plants do what. And that's why I try to throw in here that, okay, some of these plants do this, but the plants help us in many ways. And it's about kind of remembering and learning and incorporating these things into our life, such that it does help. Some of them, like we know that chamomile helps with, when you think of chamomile, you think of relaxation, decreasing stress and anxiety. So, you know, we do have some of this information. We just have to remember what these plants actually do. I think the plants can do it. We have here cocoa, or cacao, I should say. And that's the actual non-sweetened from the plant, not what we find in our grocery stores. Valerian and lemon balm and kiwi. Whole grains, dark leafy vegetables, which covers many, many things. We have our kale, our chard, our parsley, mint, spinach, sweet potatoes, as opposed to white potatoes, and our bananas that also have these items in it to help us to be able to initiate and stay asleep. A lot of times people will ask if they can use melatonin. Melatonin will help them to fall asleep, but it will not help them to stay asleep. So that becomes another issue, is once you get asleep, now we need to stay asleep because we need to go through these stages that we talked about earlier.
Wow. So the plants, real quick, Mr. Otis Granfield talks about having stressful work, 11 to 14-hour work days, etc. I don't know. Do you think 100% plant-based diet can counter this type of effect, or are there some other things you think you have to do?
Well, I think I don't know if it's that. I think that there are other things that you have to do. Like I said in one of the slides, you need to spend time outside. Really, sleep is, and I know this might sound a little bit off subject, but it feels like after doing some reading, sleep is very, still a lot of questions out there on it. And it's very much a spot where you have to slow the brain down, slow down what's going on in your life in order to even get into good quality sleep. So if you are finding that you are working 12-hour, 14-hour days, you have to be able to carve some time out to sleep, to restore your body, because you can't keep going with the same rhythm and think you'll get better results. So eating a plant-based diet and then not sleeping because you're still at work is not going to give you the results that you're looking for. So you have to kind of do everything together. And what you kind of learn as you transition to a plant-based diet is more that this lifestyle is more about what we put in. It's not just about what we put in our body. It's a full kind of transition of our mindset. So things that you didn't see or understand before start to then make more sense to you. So then what will happen when you start eating more plants, you want to spend more time outside. You want to touch the ground. You want to do more grounding. You don't want to spend your whole day in the office. You want to get outside. So the plants, I don't know if the plants are making you do that. Well, I do know the plants are making you do that. So you will change your mindset about what is important, and you will want to spend more time in improving your personal health, because at the end of the day, we all know that if we're not healthy, then we can't do the things outside, or you can't do the things in life that, appear to be what everybody is reaching for. So you have to help. Our health is our wealth. So without our health, there's really nothing. So here, the most important thing is to remember that sleep is very important, dynamic part of our life. We have requirements for sleep, and we still are learning a lot about sleep's impact on our lives. There are different cycles that we go through that we need to attain good quality sleep. Our sleep patterns do change during the lifespan, and there are a lot of chemicals and biochemical substances that play a major role in us attaining a good night of sleep. The benefits of sleep are listed here. I won't go through those again because you can see them here. We have to maintain a proper balance because more does not necessarily mean better. And then there are some foods that can help us to attain and aid us in quality sleep. So, it was very interesting kind of looking through some of this information because it's not something that we kind of necessarily think about on a daily basis, because sleep is something that we all do, and sleep is something that we all kind of assume that everybody sleeps and doesn't have any problem sleeping. A lot of people have problems sleeping. A lot of children have problems sleeping. And as we are getting into a society that we're more busy, our mind is always multitasking. It's making sleep even a little more difficult for the population. So sleep is being studied more because we're running into more people that are having sleep deprivation and sleep problems. But thank you for your time and listening. And hopefully I shared something that you may not have known before, and will encourage you to continue looking up information yourself and learn more about sleep.
That's very powerful. I want everybody in the chat room, please give a digital thumbs up to Dr. Palmer. There are a few questions I want to splash on the screen. I know we're coming up on our hour, but there's some great questions. First of all, Gwendolyn Darrell asked, will this information on the nutrition be available on notes? I sent them to your email. I placed your email in the chat. And so, of course, it's on your screen. It's also on the sticker. So anybody that goes in the chat later will have access to email. If they listen to this video, they can email you with if they want to get PowerPoints or the like. And there's a question about does cacao have caffeine? So you mentioned cacao is a healthy food, but it's a natural chocolate. What are your comments on that? People tend to think caffeine is something that's going to keep you from sleeping, and cacao is a natural chocolate. But is that somebody want to comment on that?
It has a little bit, not a lot, and it's some sort of alkaloid or something, but it's usually not going to be the kind of, I mean, depending on what kind of chocolate you're eating, but if you're just doing like raw cacao and something, for most people, it's not going to keep you up at night, especially if you're not doing it super late.
How about tossing and turning? I think you touched on that a little bit, Celeste, in terms of.
So this is where, sleep becomes more kind of one of those things where I'll just say a spiritual thing. So what happens is if you haven't dealt with something during the day, it all comes back to the forefront at night when you're laying down and it's quiet. And so in a lot of these situations, we need to start to work on or start to break down what the issues are. And a lot of times we may not even know what our brain is worried about or what's going on. But we have to figure out what we're worried about and what may be keeping us tossing and turning. Again, and we talked about earlier, we need to check with our doctors and make sure that our adrenal glands are functioning like they're supposed to, and we're getting proper release of hormones, because that can be another problem if the adrenals are not functioning properly or the thyroid is not functioning properly, that will keep us up tossing and turning through the night.
One other thing, like something that I do with a lot of my clients is just I focus on their mindfulness routine. So you touched on this a bit, but like meditation, journaling helps people release stuff. And then sometimes I have to get into people's business and find out what kind of mattress they're sleeping on, because people forget that if you sleep on a really horrible mattress, it'll be night and day. If you change that mattress up, you might have a really amazing sleep.
So now matches. I mean, they say have to change a mattress every 8 years. Is that true, or is that a marketing ploy?
Go ahead. Go ahead. Were you going to say something?
That has to do, well, some of that I think is marketing, but I think they are saying that because, your mattress gets like a divot or a indention in the center after a certain amount of time. And so I think it's just not as springy. I know they don't use springs anymore, but it's not as fluffy as it was when you first get it. So they're recommending you get a new one. And also, they quote, which is kind of scary to think about, that you have hair and skin cells in your mattress. And so you need to change your mattress after 8 years. And so that would make anybody go and get a new mattress after 8 years.
Yeah, I like to say, I think it is a ploy, but I think we want to get healthier mattresses, and there are a lot of chemicals in the materials in mattresses. So when we change our mattress, we want more of a natural mattress. There are more organic mattresses. You can compare online and things, but a lot of our mattresses have formaldehyde, a lot of chemicals in it. I think in the old days, they used to put the mattresses out in the sun and let the sun heat it and kill all the microbials and the mites and things like that, but change it, flip it, things like that we can do. But mattresses are very expensive. So not all of us can just, purchase a mattress as often as we like, but those are some of the things. And I agree with the mindfulness, meditation, breathing exercises can help rest and settle our minds and help us fall off to sleep, for people that have disturbed sleep and tossing and turning.
And also there are apps now, and there are YouTube channels where you can listen to mindful guided meditation at nighttime. Some of it's talking, some of it's just music to kind of, again, we're trying to slow down the brain waves from our beta wake state into our theta and delta state. And so you can play those things overnight to help kind of slow down the brain and slow down your thought process. And remembering that when you are going to sleep, when you're in the bed, the idea is to think about relaxation. So you're in bed to relax. Don't think about, I'm trying to go to sleep, I'm trying to go to sleep, I'm trying to go to sleep, because that makes it harder to go to sleep. So you're thinking about just relaxing. And then when you do that, before you know it, a lot of times you're into sleep.
Wow. So so back to the mattress. I mean, my mattress is more than 8 years old, so I take it. I probably need to change it. But you said something about chemicals in mattress, which I never thought much about. I mean, there's this natural mattress place not far from me. It's in the Village. I mean, should I invest the next mattress I invest in? Should I go to get a natural mattress? I mean, that may be something for the audience. Is it worth getting a natural mattress?
I just want to say this. I mean, this is very much a Western mindset, because in other countries, they don't spend time really thinking about, getting the greatest Posturepedic memory foam mattress. And they don't have problems with sleep as much as we do. So, I mean, I think we have to keep in mind our Western lifestyle, meaning get up, go, get money, come home, and repeat. So I think we have to, in addition to, yes, the mattress, if you have the ability to get a $5,000 mattress, then go at it. But I don't think that people should concentrate and feel like they have to have a certain type of mattress to get quality sleep, because I think there's so many other things involved in that product.
Well,
but do Western mattresses have more chemicals in them? I'm sorry.
Yes,
they do.
They do.
They do.
Sophie was say something.
Yeah, I was going to say there are a lot of mattresses that are not $5,000. There's a lot of mattresses now that are memory foam and that are a couple $100. Just FYI, I had to look this up for somebody, so I know.
They're natural mattresses. They're chemical-free mattresses.
Right. I've been to that organic store and compared organic mattresses. They're made with cotton. Some of the formaldehydes and the chemicals can make you sleep too long or too much. But you can just get the topper. You can just get the topper mattress, and these days you could put it on like a platform. You don't need the box springs and all the whole get up, entire get up. So I don't think you have to spend $5,000. You can compare. You can ask about discounts and things like that. But I think you can get something under $2,000, maybe $1,000 or $1,500 or less. But it is a good investment.
Assure says natural mattress costs $1,000 and under.
See?
Okay. So I was just commenting on people who may not be able to do that, because that's not, everybody can't do that. So just trying to remind people that, if you can, of course, it's good to have also, natural food and natural clothes. Our cotton that we wear on our body also affects, us. So, but everybody will not be able to go and get a new mattress.
I want to warn our audience, we're going to go a couple minutes over. We got some questions we're going to address. And again, we do go over a little bit, and I apologize. We try to keep it at an hour, but this is a very important topic. And Dr. Palmer just hit us with just a plethora of information, and it raised a lot of questions, a lot of commentary. So just bear with us. We're going to address some questions. We always for those of you who are tuning in for the first time, you can submit questions to us. I'll put the email in the chat room where you can submit the questions to us beyondthescript@montgomeryheart.com. And you can submit questions and we'll address those questions online. So any other comments on mattresses? There's a lot of information. We might have to do a part 2 on sleep.
Someone can get an air mattress and just put natural organic cotton bedding on it and things like that. I mean, you can be creative.
Wonderful. We have some questions from our audience, and I'm going to start off, and I think you guys have parsed them up. This is from Anita Thomas. Sometimes I just lay in bed and my mind just race about things that happened in the past, things that happened that day, just mind rambling. What is this? Now, you may have touched on this, Dr. Palmer, but why don't you kind of address this again, Celeste, on this?
So the mind rambling is kind of the as I spoke about before, not solving some problems or issues from the day or some concerns from the day. And so that all comes to be readdressed because the body's trying to help us to solve our issues so that we can go to sleep and start a new day. And so if there's something unsolved, then it's going to come up in the quiet before we head off to sleep. So this is where sometimes you have to create maybe your worry hours. So maybe you pick during the day between 1 and 2 p.m. This is where you get to think about and work out all the things in your mind that may be bothering you. But at nighttime, you have to be able to turn that off. And it does take distraction techniques. It's not just easy. I know it's not easy to just say, okay, I'm not going to think about this big problem that I have right now. But that's where the meditation, the quieting, the closing your eyes, the deep breathing comes in, because now you're doing something active so that those thoughts are not floating back into the front of your mind. They're still there, but they will slow down and not obstruct your sleep as much. And then also there are people who actually have take meditation classes where you meditate with a group. And so sometimes that can be helpful too, because now you're in a room with other people who are doing the same thing. And it helps you to kind of get into a space and you kind of don't feel weird doing it by yourself. You eventually learn to be comfortable with it, but initially it may feel a little bit different. And so getting in a meditation group can also be helpful to help to slow down your mind. And this is during the daytime while you're at work and also at nighttime. So meditation and slowing down brain waves is a good thing at any time.
The next question, Janelle Williams, what is the best time to take herbs and vitamins? Number 1, and number 2, can you take too many herbs at one time and does it affect the liver? Who wants to take that?
Well, I just think it all depends. There's so many different herbs that are helpful with energy and rest and vitality. So definitely ones that help with energy and vitality and adrenals, that help with adrenals that may stimulate you. You don't want to take it late at night. With a few exceptions, you don't want to take it late at night and feel like you can't sleep and toss and turn. For example, like ginseng or rhodiola, something like that. But also, so there's not just one time to take, herbs, but most herbs, that you take, that many you may take twice a day. But like I said, you don't want to take things too late. They give you energy. Vitamins, most multivitamins and vitamins you want to take with food and with meals, not on an empty stomach. But there's not just one time to take every herb or every vitamin. So that is hard to say.
Yeah, no, great points. And then, regarding the liver also, you got to consider if you're taking medications, and then a lot of vitamins over the counter have a lot of carrier molecules in it that may destroy the liver. So it's like you said, it's a big variable. From Kulin, I have a food question. When I eat meat, lots of veggies, and no or low starch, I feel great. I have high energy. When I eat starch, veggies, and no meat, I eventually end up sluggish. Also, beans drain my energy. I lose weight quickly not eating meat, and I have to be conscious of candida. I read 80-10-10. That works to keep sugar levels steady. I also keep them level, eating 70 to 80% fat, 10% protein in the form of meat, and 10% starch. What do I do? I like the thought of being vegan or vegetarian, but feel worse that way. What do I do?
Oh.
First of all, child, you need to get a test to see if you have candida and confirm it. You can get a GI effects or some sort of work with a practitioner to confirm see if you also have parasites. You feel better without starch if you have candida because you're not eating things that are feeding it. And beans, when people are trying to, when I've taken people through a protocol to cleanse candida, beans can be a big disruptor for people. Not all, and sometimes it's certain ones. You have to feel it out. So you kind of need to go through a protocol to actually cleanse your body of the candida. And there's natural ways to do that and keep your starches low. You can do fruit, but you usually the lower sugar fruits are the best ones. I don't like people to do the high sugar ones because, again, we're just taking a period to relieve the body of the things that are going to feed the candida and allow it to keep growing. And then the 80-10-10 diet is a raw food diet that is very high on the fruit side. So it's 80% carbs, 10% protein, 10% fat. I don't find that super sustainable for a lot of people for long periods. If you have candida, I highly don't recommend you do that. I highly recommend it doesn't mean that you can't eat fruit. I don't really actually believe you have to be on this crazy, strict, absolutely no fruit diet. I've actually helped people recover from candida and they were still eating, again, like low sugar fruits. But you need to go through a cleansing period and then you can perhaps then re-engage yourself with the plant-based stuff and the beans and all the stuff that you would like to eat.
Wonderful.
I tend to agree. And I just want to piggyback that. Listen to your body. When she started out and said she ate the first diet and she felt good, why didn't you stay on it? Your body will kind of guide you, and everybody's body is different. So just because people are eating certain types of food doesn't mean that's a good food for you. But I think her body gave her some signals what type of diet was good for her.
Great point. Great point. Marie Turner, I have trouble sleeping and would like the panel suggestion for any aids. In particular, I would like opinions on taking CBD oil before going to bed, and if so, dosage, etc. Anybody want to comment on that?
I don't use CBD. Maybe Dr. Atkins. I have other stuff that I use for sleep, but Dr. Atkins, do you have an opinion on CBD? I'm very curious.
Yeah, we do use CBD, not exclusively, but CBD can be helpful for relaxation, muscle tension, chronic pain and insomnia. So, putting so many drops under your tongue, that can be helpful. And it depends on the concentration of the CBD. The concentrations may go up as high as 1,500 milligrams per bottle to 50 or 75. So just know when you do a higher concentration, you may need less drops, but the bottle is more expensive. So, but you're not taking 1,000 or 1,500 in one dose when you have a $1,500 bottle, but it may be so many drops equal to anywhere from 15 to 30 to 50 milligrams. But it's trial and error, and you can see how it helps relax you. They're not knockout drops, but also, I do use melatonin sometimes. Melatonin that's oral. Gets into your system. You need an hour or so to get it into your system. If you take sublingual, it's in your system faster and it's out of your system faster. And like Dr. Palmer said, darkness activates it. So it's good to have blinders on and make sure to block out the darkness because it's activated in darkness. And so that's helpful. Some people, the gentleman that wakes up at night, sometimes I recommend some of the herbal flower essences like Bach Flower Remedy, Rescue Sleep, which is a spray or drops you can put under tongue. It's at most health food stores like Whole Foods or Vitamin Shop. But I tell people keep it at your bedside, and you can use so many drops to see if it relaxes you. And if it's not enough that night, then next night use more. But if you wake up at 2, 3 o'clock, it's not as long as acting as melatonin, because if you don't allow 7, 8 hours of melatonin, you can wake up with a hangover or feeling drowsy because it has to get through your system. But this Rescue Sleep by Bach Flower Remedy has a shorter duration of action. So it's great for people that wake up in the middle of the night. And they could be waking up to go to the bathroom, something like that. So we want to make sure we're not waking up because of blood sugar running too high or prostate enlarged or something like that.
Some of the things that I use, it depends. So one, I'm looking at their sleep ritual, and because a lot of people, like Celeste was saying, that like literally working in their bed and then they're trying to go to sleep, and that doesn't really work because the brain needs to separate those things. So I'm looking at how can I optimize their sleep ritual, and then if they're on medications, I usually start with simple things like magnesium, like the Calm supplement, and tea, like a chamomile tea at night, a couple hours before they're going to bed. If they're not on medication, and really depending on the person, I also really like reishi mushroom. Reishi mushroom is a medicinal mushroom, and it's been shown in studies to increase the amount of time in deep sleep and shorten the time it takes to get to sleep. I actually use it when I am traveling and I need to regulate my sleep cycle, and it works so amazingly for me. But it's not something that I recommend like to everyone. So I kind of just base it based on the person, and then also try to work on their lifestyle stuff too.
Wow, it's a big picture. Last question, pre-started question is, Cindy Parchment, why is it that no matter how much sleep I get, I always wake up tired and exhausted? I hear that a lot with some of my patients. As you think it's the quality of sleep, some people may be sleeping a duration, but may not be going through all those cycles. What do you say, Celeste?
Yeah, I mean, Dr. Atkins touched on it some. A lot of times the adrenals are fatigued, and we're not getting the hormone release, and we're not getting those cycles. So if that is happening, when you wake up in the morning, you are going to feel tired because you did not go through the proper restful sleep. You were sleeping, but you didn't have restful sleep, which is the difference. So, and that's, a lot of times when people have taken medications to help them sleep, whether it be antihistamines. A lot of times people will take Benadryl to help them sleep. You still wake up in the morning feeling groggy and sleepy because it does not mean that it puts you into your proper cycle. It helps you to go to sleep, but not to cycle properly.
So Pam, would you give that saliva test for hormones?
Yeah, definitely. Definitely want to look at the adrenal hormones, and because most of us have adrenal fatigue, just living in this world, traffic, financial stress, family stress, moving, loss of job, any, responsibilities. There's so many stressors. So our adrenals are taking stress. So we need to know how to nurse our adrenals. And unfortunately, in traditional medicine, we don't diagnose adrenal fatigue. It's either adrenals are not working, which is Addison's disease, that they, you need corticosteroids, or they're overworking. That's Cushing's disease, where you look like a beach ball because you're having so much edema. But we don't recognize the fatigue. And I think the saliva tests are most helpful to do that, where you look at hormone levels and average them. But unfortunately, they're not on traditional doctors' tests that they do, and it's not a blood test. And so, but I think there's help, and also looking at the thyroid, as I said, making sure you're not anemic, but relaxation techniques and all those things can help.
And I just want to remind our listeners and anybody who tunes in later, everybody on this panel is accessible by email. I had Celeste email up during her presentation, and usually the person is presenting, but all of this information is just an email away, and you can consult. I mean, all of us take consults by phone, and so you have access to this world-renowned panel, plus any of our guests. So if you have any questions, you can contact any of us through our emails, and we can help you address these things. I know we're past the hour. Again, this is a powerful presentation. There's a few parting questions I think that are very important. Vitamin D, which is a hormone, which we discussed before, but is taking vitamin D at night good? Is that ideal, according to Alexia Alford? Any thoughts on that real quick?
I just say vitamin D. I tell my patients you can take it anytime. I'm not aware that it disturbs the sleep. Just taking it with food that have oils in it, because it's a fat soluble vitamin, but there's no specific time that you have to take vitamin D, just with the meal, with food with good oils in it.
Yes, and that's why the recommendation is also to go outside during the day. It's not just to go outside to get fresh air, but it's to go outside to get vitamin D, because that is necessary to have a good night's sleep. So that's the vitamin D part in being outside in the sunlight.
How much time? About an hour, 2 hours, as much as possible? What do you recommend?
I would say as much as possible. Now, when I say as much as possible, I'm not saying 4 or 5 hours, but if you're out there 4 or 5 hours and you're gardening, that's fine too.
The more
but the idea is to do it on and I'm not saying that I do it perfectly myself, but it's to do it every day, such that you get an additive effect, and we're not kind of lacking on some days and then going out on some days, so that it is additive. Because, for example, when we go on vacation, a lot of us spend a lot of time outside. And so when you're on vacation, you feel happier, you sleep better, you have kind of this ideal life. Now, true, you're not having to go to work because you're on vacation, and you're on vacation, but there are things that we're doing that we don't do on our regular, in our regular rhythm, that could probably contribute to us having a better night's sleep if we do spend more time outside and taking in sunlight onto our skin.
And this is going to last. I'm not going to necessarily have us address this, but I want to throw it up on the screen, because diffuse essential oils before bed, like the Terra Serenity oil, helps. Somebody needs to do a talk on essential oils. I think this is a big topic. Would you all agree? I hear so much about it, and we probably need to address this for our audience. So I don't know, Pam, you might want to volunteer for this, or we'll recruit somebody in the panel after we go off air. But anyway, what I'd like to do is I want to thank our audience for coming. I know we went over, and I apologize, but when we have a topic like this, we do go over, because I want to make sure we cover the information. We cover topics that are very complex. Celeste did a wonderful job. Dr. Palmer did a wonderful job in terms of covering this information, and actually, drove more questions and some wonderful questions. And so we may actually do a part 2 on this and cover some other issues. I had a bunch of questions I didn't get a chance to ask, but this is a wonderful topic, and the panel asked a lot of great questions, and we want to thank you again. So until next Monday, we want you to keep it fresh, natural, and live. Thank you for joining us. We look forward to seeing you again.